80% of West Ada high schools, including Mountain View behind me, are overcrowded. Within this framework, there's nothing about mandating masks within schools for students or staff. While the student doctors are interacting with patients over here, they're actually being recorded over here. Each interaction is observed by their professors. They're chanting, "No justice, no peace." They've recently started rerouting irrigation and moving pipes in this area, but they still need to move a few fences and signs before they can actually put the sidewalk in. The ruling means Edma will be the first transgender inmate in the country to receive the surgeries. One of the services this dental team offers the kids is placing sealants, which means they can keep their smiles nice and healthy without missing valuable class time. Kickoff might not be until 8:15, but take a look at the fans right now. He says it's kind of like how we social network with each other from all across the globe on Facebook or Twitter. Behind me is the future home of Swan Falls High School, which is just one way the Kuna School District is hoping to get students prepared for the future. Greg Hampikian knows DNA. He's been studying samples of it from suspects for years to assist Canyon County detectives in the Darylyn Johnson case.
The folks in my lab at the time, Michael Davis, did mitochondrial sequencing on DNA from suspects that were eliminated. All of them were eliminated.
The case had hair evidence, and Charles Fain was originally pinned to the crime.
Hair isn't the best evidence for DNA.
His lawyer was able to show the hairs didn't match, exonerating Fain, but the case was still unsolved.
We're left with this problem. Whose hair is it?
In 2016, Greg met scientist Ed Green, whose lab at UC Santa Cruz looks at old, broken, and degraded DNA. He introduced Ed to the detectives, and Green's new research led to this man, David Allen Dalrymple, a DNA match.
Ed Green was able to develop for the police from these hairs enough DNA information to know, first of all, it was a hair from a male. That was very important. And second of all, to get enough information that it could be compared to some genealogy.
Hampikian says this is cutting-edge stuff. They can look at smaller and smaller pieces to identify a mitochondrial DNA profile.
Really the best of the best of the best for broken, old, dead DNA.
Dalrymple's sample was not one Greg had tested in his lab, but he says for the science, this is a satisfying end to the decades-long search for justice.
This is 40 years. The lesson for me is no, you never give up.
Lori Walenga has to make a tough decision in the next few weeks.
We just don't feel like that's a fair place to put parents, to ask them to choose between their family's health and their other child's education.
As a parent in West Ada School District, Lori's family has the option to attend the district's virtual program next semester. But it means her daughter Ella would lose her spot at Galileo STEM Academy, a school of choice they were thrilled to get into via a lottery system.
We will fill that seat if there are kids on the waiting list.
Other parents at these schools of choice are in the same position.
It's not a decision. I'm not sending him to school. Not until there's a vaccine or the end of the pandemic.
There's no guarantee they'll have a spot when school returns, but the district is making some accommodations.
If they are a student with an underlying health condition that puts them at risk of staying in a regular school, we will reserve them a spot.
A good solution, but it certainly doesn't account for families like the Walengas.
Ella herself does not have any medical conditions on her own, but her brother does. And sending her to a school of between 800 and 1,000 people, her chance of exposure is off the chart.
Parents are hoping to see other possible solutions implemented.
In a perfect world, I would like to see the kids be able to stay in their schools of choice and participate virtually.
And put the STEM skills they're learning in their classrooms to use.
We have a pandemic, a national pandemic that's affecting our state in skyrocketing numbers. We have an actual real-life problem here, so let's use our STEM education to solve that problem.
The district says they plan to ask the board to waive a policy which would allow them to put the students who don't return in person to their schools of choice first in next year's lottery. Molly Knight might be one of the most prepared nurses in the nation to work during a pandemic, having worked in refugee camps in Bangladesh and in an Ebola treatment center in the Congo. She shares how her work overseas shapes her perspective here in Idaho, working on the front lines during COVID-19. Molly Knight's first trip abroad landed her in Bangladesh to serve in the middle of the diphtheria outbreak. The moment she stepped off the plane, she went to work at the world's largest refugee camp.
I don't know the numbers, but we had, people lined up. I mean, there's I think 1.5 or more million people in this refugee camp now. But we saw people nonstop.
She was simultaneously treating a measles outbreak as well in the area. It was hard but important work, and it wouldn't be the last time she worked during an outbreak, not even her second to last time.
My second trip was Bangladesh again, the same year, it was 2018, and I actually was sent there for a cholera outbreak. Cholera would be spread through water, and it was monsoon season there. The other outbreak I've done, as I did travel to the Democratic Republic of the Congo, which is Central Africa. That was last year. That was for Ebola.
Now she's back in Idaho, treating a pandemic on her home turf. Though the various outbreaks she's seen can't necessarily be compared, given those countries don't have the resources like we do.
Here we could say we need 10 more ventilators, for example. We could probably get those. Whereas, in your Bangladesh, you can't go and get IVs and get stuff on the street.
Knight works at St. Alphonsus in Nampa, where patients have tested positive for COVID-19. The skills she's learned abroad, like preserving PPE, are vastly important. Another big lesson she's brought back with her is remaining calm in a high-stress situation.
When I'm overseas in Bangladesh or the Congo, one of the biggest things we saw was fear. Same here, I think one of the biggest things right now is fear on both sides. There's a lot of fear. And I'm just trying as a nurse personally to hopefully can just alleviate that a little bit.